Welcome, welcome. This is Pia Larson with the Make Your Marketing podcast. Today I have the honor of speaking with Jason Yormark of Socialistics. Love that name, Jason. That's
Thank
awesome. So we're going to talk everything social today. And first off, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Look forward to the conversation.
Yeah. Fellow Puget Sound resident in my neighborhood, in my hood. Yeah, that's great. So first off, I got to know, because my son is in the military, do you do social media for the Air Force?
We did. They were a client of ours for about 6 to 8 months. It was interesting. They came to us because they were frustrated with the agency they were working with. And government is tough because they have all these rules, and with them, we literally could only work with them for a set period of time without having to kind of go through a lot of government bureaucracy. So we worked on a 6-month contract with them to help drive, to manage their social media on the Pacific Coast, to help drive folks that are interested in a military career, kind of driving them to the Air Force. So we had a tremendous amount of success, really awesome experience. I'm hoping to work with them again. But like I said, it was short-lived just because they have these rules where if you don't go through these certain steps, that they can only actually work with a certain business for a set period of time. But we had an awesome experience with them.
Yeah, I just was wondering out loud, what would that be like to work with them?
It was great. I mean,
I know the rules are there.
We delivered killer results and had a really great. It was. I mean, I took a lot of pride in that, and look, I'm going to brag about that until the end of time, just because of the pride that we took in the work that we did and who we did it for.
Yeah, you should. So tell us what you do to help your clients move the needle. Yeah,
well, I mean, a lot of agencies say this, but we're a results-oriented agency. Like, most of our clients are month to month, so we have to deliver results or they'll leave.
Wow.
So it's really about, navigating social in a way that actually drives leads, sales, customers, not so much vanity metrics, although that plays a part too. We have a lot of clients that come to us and say, hey, we want to build our brand. We want to build our community, our audience. So, that for us, that's easy. Where the real work comes in is how do you do social media in a way that actually moves the needle for getting people to do what it is that you want them to do, which is typically buy this thing or fill out this form and contact us for more information, things of that nature. So everything we do is really designed around that. And, we need to make sure that clients have realistic budgets and realistic expectations, that they actually have a product or service that people want or need or differentiates. I always say, great marketing doesn't fix bad products or services. So, we'll say no to folks if something's out of whack. Like if the product is, a Me Too product or their website isn't where it needs to be. That's when we reach out to folks like you to help with things like those sorts of things, to make sure that they get their house in order before they're spending money and inviting people into it. So.
Yeah, so here's the conversation that I always have with prospects. I want to do social for my business. I just need someone to post something 4 times a week on Instagram and Facebook. No, I don't want to use ads because ads don't work. And I don't know really who my client is. It's every small business, and I need results in 3 months. Does that sound familiar?
Oh yeah. That's what we call checkbox marketing. They just want to know that it's getting done and they can check that box and move on. And my response, like if somebody approaches me in that way, that's not going to be a good fit, because they're kind of already coming in with preconceived notions and expectations. We want to work with people that realize they don't know what they're doing when it comes to it. They have the resources to do it well. They know that that it's an opportunity, and they just need the right partner to help navigate that for them. So we really need to vet clients out that way.
Yeah, and I think the problem is they think it's social. Like, why can't people do it? Like Facebook's giving you the tools and the ads manager. Why can't you figure it out? But honestly, if you're not in it every day and you're not, tweaking things to make it work, the outcome's not going to be the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what platforms are you hot on right now. I guess it depends on the industry and what you're selling, but with the new platforms like TikTok and Clubhouse, do you talk to your clients about those, or do you focus mainly on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram?
Most of the clients that we work with, we're dealing with the big four. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I mean, these are more mature, if that's even a word, more mature platforms, and that have ad platforms that again are a little bit more sophisticated and have just provide a little bit more predictability for our clients. The TikToks and the Clubhouses and the Snapchats of the world. A lot of the businesses that we work on aren't super youth oriented. I mean, we can navigate any channel for a client, but ultimately what it typically comes down to, most of the clients that we're not working with, the Microsofts and the Amazons of the world yet. So we're dealing with businesses that have to prioritize their spend. So I always say it's better to be great at less than average at everything, So I never recommend our clients take what resources they have and spread them out too thin across everything just to be on there. It's like, no, what are your goals and objectives? How do you define success? How much do we have to work with here? And then 9 times out of 10, that means, okay, well, we're going to focus on Facebook's ad platform, or we're going to focus on LinkedIn, because this is where we think we can create the most momentum for you. That's going to build confidence and momentum that you're going to want to spend more on. You need to see ROI. You need to kind of see some things happen before you maybe invest more in other areas. So not to mention, for all the things that Facebook isn't and the things that people hate about it, the fact of the matter is their ad platform is the most, in my opinion, sophisticated, affordable, targetable platform. It's the low-hanging fruit. And for a lot of our clients, that's where we start to show confidence. We have to build trust with them. And that's just a place that allows us to kind of create some of that momentum that they can kind of see, oh, maybe this can work. Maybe this is a really viable investment for us in our marketing strategy. So we'll start there and then kind of permeate to other platforms if it makes sense for them.
Yeah, and you specialize working with B2B, right? Which is very different than B2C.
It's interesting. We say that, like, I've been told time and time again, you got a niche, you got to pick a niche. And I'm like, and we're not, we took a different approach. We went the specialization, right? We're not going to be a general marketing agency. We're just going to focus on social media. And I feel like that has worked for us. I tried to take it a step further by kind of positioning ourselves as B2B, because I've had personally a lot of experience in B2B marketing, and that was just kind of my way to kind of further specialize ourselves. But what I found is our name and our visibility just kind of lends itself to attracting B2C clients as well. And so we do both. I would say it's about a 60-40 split, and we don't turn away B2C opportunities because in my opinion, it's very difficult to go from B2C to B2B. B2B is it's a longer life cycle. You're dealing with, higher ticket service-based companies typically that the decision takes place over the course of anywhere from 3 to 18 months. So your social media strategy is very different in that. And it takes a really sophisticated level of experience and intellectual horsepower to really be able to navigate that the right way. So we find that, that starting there and then doing B2C is easier for us, because typically in a B2C environment, oftentimes it's a point and click product. So that's just us. I'm not saying that there isn't sophistication with B2C social media management. We just find that it's harder to go the other way around. So we do both. It just depends on whether our client's a good fit for us.
So what got you into this? What was the light bulb moment where you're like, okay, I can see myself doing this for a really long time?
Well, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm actually writing a book right now called The Anti-Agency, How I Built, $1 million business differently. And I've always wanted to do my own thing, but my life journey has been very different. I'm 47 years old, and I launched this business 3 years ago. So my time was much later in life. And that was just because of my personal journey. I didn't have the ability to take on the risk, and I wasn't ready until then to get it right. And But I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. I never felt like I fit, in that traditional 9 to 5 culture, like sitting behind a desk, sitting in traffic for 4 hours, being in 8 meetings a day. Just all of that just got in the way of me wanting to like create and do things and build things. So I knew it was always in me. But it was always just, I had to wait for the right time. And when my kids were a little bit older and I could take a little bit of risk, I didn't have any startup funds. Like I had to, grind for everything. And I had to wait till I reached a point in my life where it made sense. And it did. And then I took the leap.
Well, that's motivating for our older listeners, because
Sure.
I know people just like you are just ready for the next chapter, right? And the nice thing too is who you want to work with. You know exactly who you want to help.
Yeah.
Do you think it's too crowded? I mean, let's just say I know that I need to do Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, and I know they work, but the number one concern is that there's not enough space anymore. It's too loud and my voice won't be heard. What do you say to that?
No, I mean, from a client perspective, no. I mean, I think if you've got a really great product or service and you have somebody that you're working with that's very talented and knows how to navigate this arena, then absolutely not. I mean, it's so funny and interesting to me. So many people are kind of up in arms about the whole, how ads are super targeted. Is my phone listening to me? And kind of people are kind of creeped out. And I get it. But at the same time, I push back and I say, well, look, you're always going to be marketed to. You're not going to avoid that. What would you rather? Advertising that is not targeted for you, and then you're getting all of these messages that don't relate to you, or getting stuff that actually you care about? Like, hey, this is actually I can't tell you how many times I've been on Instagram, and I bought things. I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool, or hey, I was looking at this. Now it gets a little ridiculous. Like I'll look at shoes or something for my wife, and then I'll see ads for the next 2 weeks for that. So it's like, oh God. But honestly, I like getting things that are more geared to what makes sense for me or what I am interested at any given time. So it's very effective. And no, I don't think that it's too, I think there's a ton of marketing agencies, and there's too much of those.
We always ruin it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, if you're a good one, then, you'll rise above the tide. But, there's a lot of pretenders, and a lot of what we do is, we have a lot of clients that come to us saying we had a bad experience and we have to kind of talk them off the ledge. So to me, that's where it's overcrowded. But in terms of the opportunities, there's never been a better time in the history of human beings where you can start a business or run a business or you have the world is your oyster. You've got these platforms that you can leverage. Like back in the day in the 80s, or, you had to do a TV commercial or a radio ad or a billboard, and you couldn't measure that, and it was cost prohibitive. And now, with, a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, you can put yourself out there and start a business and create momentum and do your own thing more so than ever before.
And you can use the feedback and the data to switch on a dime. It's awesome.
For sure.
Yeah. So let's switch over to LinkedIn, because I know that in the past, LinkedIn ads have gotten a bad rap. Have they gotten better? Are they a viable option for businesses?
So LinkedIn is an incredible platform in terms of the audience and what they've built for a lot, especially B2B businesses, service-based businesses. I mean, it's a tremendous audience because it's kind of, when you look at Facebook, there's a lot of noise there, a lot of the politics and a lot of the stuff that people hate. But, LinkedIn's much more professional and much more targeted and just a professional environment. Now, that's the good thing. The bad thing is it is prohibitively expensive for most businesses. We've just found that if you're not willing to spend at least, $3,000 to $5,000 at minimum just on LinkedIn, you're not going to move the needle too significantly. It's just really expensive. And it is because of it's just a higher quality audience. So
right.
I think they're doing themselves a little bit of a disservice by it being as expensive as it is, because I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in the small business space to kind of get them, in there and using that. But a lot of times our clients are, their ad spend is we have ad spends that are 10,000, 50,000, like we get those, but most of them are less than $10,000. So they have to be selective on how they spend that money. And it's just, we find that we can move the needle for them more significantly through Facebook and through Instagram than through LinkedIn. So it's pretty cost prohibitive. If you don't have, between a 5 to 10K ad budget all in, then you're probably not going to move the needle too much there. And you're better served by kind of one-to-one engagement, using like LinkedIn Sales Navigator and building targeted lists of folks and doing some customized, personalized outreach, I think is a much more cost-effective, way of doing things.
Yeah, I agree with that. On the Facebook side of things, do you work with your clients on, you mentioned community. How important is that to a brand? And when you say community, is that like groups or memberships? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Usually for us, it's brand building. Again, when you're working B2B, most people aren't, super passionate. They're not building community. Like if they're a technology company or it's just not the sexiest thing in the world. Like people aren't like leaving comments and stuff. So really for them, it's about just, building a community that they can remarket to, folks that have a vested interest in what they do. And, so, in that sense, it's really just, that's why the ad platforms, Facebook ads is so powerful for us, because that allows us to build a really targeted audience for our clients that then, when we look at our ad strat, it's like awareness, consideration, conversion. So we're basically introducing the brand. Then those that have interacted with that content or gone to the website, we retarget and kind of continue that journey with them. And then ultimately, push them into a buying state, whether it's, in this case, usually, give us your information and we'll follow up with you, kind of situation. So, it's real that for us, that's really where that makes sense. We don't work with a tremendous amount of high brand, like the Cokes and the Taco Bells of the world, or brands that people have an emotional attachment to. So you see a lot more engagement. I've argued and talked about how I feel we are more of I think the shift in audience is more of a consumption than engagement audience. Like myself, like I look at a ton of stuff, but I don't leave comments. I don't share things. I'm busy. So I think there's a really high percentage of people that see things that don't interact with it. So we really take that with a grain of salt in terms of when we measure engagement for clients. That's why we focus on things like, are people actually, are you getting leads? Are you getting customers? Are you getting sales? And not relying so heavily on engagement. But, if you're a high profile B2C brand where you're selling, $20, $30, $40, $50 products, people are buying, then that makes sense to kind of build a little bit more community and look at comments and shares and things of that nature. But,
have you found one particular type of media that's working better today? Video, live,
anything
photos?
Anything with movement. I mean,
Okay.
video is super interesting, right? Because it's like our clients, they want to do video, but especially in like a lot of agencies are virtual now. So to capture video, it's hard to, unless you're on site. So we do a lot of motion graphics, taking photos or clips of things and piecing them together to kind of create movement. It's really less, you don't have to feel like you have to have this super buttoned up video all the time. It's just, no, let's capture some things and let's create some visual movement. That's what captures people's attention. So we found a real good mix of like, give us your raw materials and we'll create some really cool stuff that just has some movement that we can put, onto Facebook and Instagram that draws people in. And obviously there's substance to it. So we find a lot of success with those sorts of pieces of content.
Is there a brand that you're working with right now that's just nailing it, that you really enjoy working with and can see a lot of success?
Oh man.
Right?
Well, no, not all of them. It's interesting. There's one that stands out. This isn't our biggest client. So we have a client called Schmitty Snuff, and it is an alternative tobacco product. Yeah. And there's no tobacco in it. It's they've got a version that has CBD in it, but it's all natural, and it's actually designed to get people off of the stuff that gives you cancer. So it's really incredible cause. The product is unbelievable. We worked with them about a year ago for a couple months, and then they had some snafus operationally and kind of went away. They came back a couple months ago, ready to go, and they have such an amazing product. And the problem is CBD, you can't use, like, it's a really gray area right now with social media advertising with CBD, but we've somehow gotten it to work, and we started to put ads out, and literally within a month or two, it's blowing up. Like, because their product is amazing. Like, and so it makes it easier for us. But the fact that we've been able to figure out how to craft their story and not kind of raise the Facebook red flags on CBD, which, by the way, is really dumb. Like a year or two from now, it's going to be a free for all because they're going to open up the gates for that.
I totally agree.
But we've moved the needle for them. And I mean, the client's a sweetheart. It's like this, she just invented this thing and it's just so rewarding to work for a situation like that where they're good people, they have an amazing product, and they just need help. And I'm just thrilled that we're able to have figured out how to navigate the platforms to kind of to advertise and get their product out there, because people are really responding to it. So that's the magic scenario, is when we have situations like that.
And what are they called again? What's the product?
Schmitty's Snuff.
Schmitty's. I love the name Schmitty's.
Yeah, and they're based out of here. They're based out of our area.
Oh, that's great.
So
that's great. I'll have to check them out. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's anybody that has done. I can't even because I've never used it. It's basically mouth-based tobacco, but it's not tobacco. It's like good for you, and the CBD thing has got good health benefits. It's like, and I guess it's like the closest thing to the real thing. So that's why anytime they get customers, are like, they just keep buying and buying because it's so incredible. So I love that. When somebody has a disruptive product, that's like my favorite scenario.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you're passionate about them.
Yeah. No, they're awesome.
What are some misconceptions that you are hearing out there about social media marketing?
Oh man, where do I begin? Well, I get intro calls with companies that just feel like it's, it's like they know they need to do it, but they're not convinced that it's actually going to move the needle on their business. You get the folks that say ads don't work, which is a myth. You get a lot of personal opinions, and I'll get a business leader on the phone. And they're like, "Oh, I hate Facebook, so we shouldn't do Facebook." And I'm like, "Well,
it's not about you, dude."
Yeah, your personal opinion aside, like that shouldn't be dictating what you do as a business. So I sometimes have to kind of talk people off the ledge, and then they'll be like, well, in a B2B environment, my customers or clients, they're not looking for us on Facebook. And I'm like, no, they're not. No, nobody typically goes to Facebook to look for a product or a service, but I can guarantee you the majority of them are on there. So if they go to your website or if they spend time with your brand, and we can retarget and put some advertising in front of them, it's the casual environment that they're in. They're watching TV. They've got their second screen. They're scrolling through their phone or their iPad during the commercial break. They see an ad from you. Oh, that's right. I was on their website. I was thinking it's that touch point. It's the culmination of all of those touch points that get them moving through your buyer life cycle. So yeah, they're not looking for you there, but that's where billions of people are spending like hours a day. So of course you want to have your stuff there regularly. And then
and then
they get it.
Yeah, I imagine you ask them, well, when's the last time you bought a product off social media, or giving them that example when putting them in the consumer's shoes is really helpful.
Yeah.
I'd love to touch on how social media supports SEO.
Sure.
Because I know there's this thing where it's like one or the other, and I don't agree. Mm-hmm. You might disagree with me, but I think they support each other. So if you're doing SEO, search engine optimization, for those who don't know what SEO is, and social media marketing.
Yeah, no, they go hand in hand. I mean, ultimately, you want to be doing both. Search and social play together. Social media creates search signals, so it's the sum of what you do over an extended period of time that's going to get you more search visibility. I definitely don't think it's a one or the other. I mean, look, there are certain businesses that have to make tough decisions around how they invest and how they market themselves. So you might have to prioritize one a little bit more over the other, but that really just depends on your business. If you're a point and click product, if you're a product that really lends it, like people are constantly searching for, then you might want to invest more heavily in search. But if you're like a B2B business and you have a longer life cycle, and you need to kind of build your brand over time, I think that, social media, you could argue that social media makes sense because you're not looking for people to like immediately buy from you. So you want to nurture those relationships. So you want to connect with them, on a long-term basis, whereas search is kind of in the moment. I'm looking for this thing, I find this thing. And so, but in a perfect world, you're doing both, and they're working in conjunction with each other to build a fully, diversified marketing strategy that allows you to kind of capture search visibility and, building, your social media presence over time. So they definitely, we don't do that work. We have partnerships for that, but, anytime we get a client that, hey, should I do this or that? I'm never anti another facet of marketing just because it's not our specialty. At the end of the day, we have to do what's best for our clients and make sure that we advise them appropriately.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. Yeah. What about privacy? I know people are freaking out about Apple and the tracking and all that. What conversations are you having with your clients? Or
most of them are not. We've been very proactive about it. So we've kind of gone to our clients and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what's happening, really trying to educate them so they don't kind of get into a panic mode. My whole philosophy on it has been, I like it because it's made it harder for the pretenders to compete, right? Like the marketers that are just all about vanity metrics, or they're just surface level marketers. They don't really have a lot of depth to what they do. To be able to navigate this new climate, you really have to have talented people that know what they're doing. Like, I think, this didn't really affect us too much. We just, we had to take some steps to make sure that what we were doing aligned to the technology, and basically the direction that we're going. So we have not seen a dramatic, look, there's been a little bit of a drop off, but not to the point where any of our clients are freaking out or that they're not getting, decent results still. Again, if you have a great marketer or a great team that you're working with, they can navigate these things. And a good sign of that is when they're out in front of it. They're not super reactive, like they're proactive and they're making sure that they stay ahead of these things to the extent that they can.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And then with COVID, I read a statistic the other day that there were 30% more people online during 2020 because of the pandemic. So even more opportunities to get in front of your prospects and your perfect client, right?
Yeah, we had a couple. Yeah. When COVID first hit, we dropped off pretty significantly for a month or two. But then when people realized, wait a minute, people are online more, we have to probably really rethink this. And then things picked back up. So, and I think that trend has continued.
So what have I not asked you? I feel like we've talked about a lot, but what are some things that you really want to make sure that our listeners know about what's working now with social?
There's one thing that has stood out to me in terms of our business and what has made us, I think, pretty successful. And it's going to sound corny, but it's really true. And I've thought a lot about this. It's passion. When I always tell potential clients, I said, look, at the end of the day, if you're, assessing a couple different agencies that you're going to work with, assuming that they're all equally talented, and many of them are, there's really, to me, two things that are going to dictate the velocity of your success. The first is the size of your ad budget. I don't care what anybody said. That's just how much you spend on that is going to really dictate what the results are going to look like more than anything. Again, assuming that all of these agencies are equally talented. And the second thing is passion. Is the agency that you're do they have real passion behind what they really care about what you're doing, right? Do you just feel it? Do you see it? If you're a business owner or leader, most of them are smart. You can pick up on those things. You can tell if somebody's faking it or if they're really into what you're doing and they really want to work with you. To me, that is what you look for, right? Yep. Obviously, the agency has to be talented. They have to have experience. Again, all things being equal, look for passion. Is this agency, super passionate about what we're trying to do? And do they demonstrate that in the conversations and the pitches and all? Do we feel that with them? And that has been the number one difference. And now I've had we're at the point now where I have the luxury of saying no and being selective about who we work with. So when we're passionate about something, it's real. It's not fake. We don't have to fake it anymore. We're very authentic about the work that we really want. And, if the client's a good fit and the numbers line up, we're going to land that business 9 times out of 10 because of that passion that we have.
That's such a great takeaway. I really get behind it because, it's really hard to compete on anything these days. Price, customer service, everyone's, kind of starting at the same spot. But if you have the luxury of, or not just the luxury, but knowing who you really want to work with and help, that will shine through. So
No,
great
absolutely.
takeaway.
That's been the biggest barometer of our success. And you know what it really helps with it? If we're not passionate about it, it's like, well, maybe we shouldn't be going after this and spinning our wheels on this. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look for your new book coming out. But in the meantime, you have 2 really great tools to help our listeners. One is the social media scorecard. So get graded on that. And you can get that scorecard by either emailing Jason directly at jason@socialistics.com or going to their website, socialistics.com. Or one thing that I'm going to go check out is your ad budget calculator that you have on your website. What is that all about?
Yeah, no, I really love that. I had my paid director kind of piece this together and we made it happen. So on our website, we have a paid social media calculator. So basically you can enter your goals, whether they're sales or leads, whatever it is, you kind of enter this stuff in and then click a button and it spits out kind of a budget recommendation. It's not obviously 100% accurate, but at least gives you a sense of magnitude around this is what you can expect if you really want to achieve these sorts of things. It just kind of gives you a ballpark number and you can kind of play around with it and put different things in. So it's a real time thing. So, we're all about full transparency and giving people, the access to the information that they need to really create realistic expectations. And then also, just know what you're going into ahead of time.
Yeah, that's a great tool. I'm going to go check it out at socialistics.com.
Yeah.
And finally, I know this is corny, but I love this question. What would you tell your younger self about, what would you tell your younger self? What's some advice?
Question.
Yeah.
So many things. Bet on the Cubs in 2016. Or no, I'm just kidding. I'm a huge Cubs fan.
Get cryptocurrency.
I would say I would tell my younger self to don't be afraid of doing your own thing. I think the biggest thing for me when I flipped that switch and things took off was that I realized what I was looking for all my life was right in front of me. That the stability that I wanted in my life was right in front of me the whole time, which was doing my own thing, controlling your own fate, and not letting the fear of the unknown crutch you. And that's always what happened with me. And I had reached a point in my life where I'm like, I'm just going to do this. This is what I need to do. And the minute that fear didn't exist, things just took off. So I think that fear
Feel
can be
the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, that's what I tell my younger self. Now, whether I would have started any earlier, I don't know, but that's my biggest takeaway for sure.
That's great advice, Jason. Drop the mic on that one.
Thanks.
Well, thanks so much for joining us on the show. We really enjoyed having you. And if you guys want to reach out to Jason again, it's socialistics.com. All right. Have a great weekend, Jason.
Great. Thank you for having me.